Whether you read the books, saw the movies, or both, if you're a Harry Potter fan, there's a good chance that you view Draco Malfoy as a bad guy. And that's totally fair. He definitely wasn't the best dude to the Potter bunch, and had a couple of negative tendencies, that's for sure. However, he wasn't as bad as he's often depicted. He's no saint, but he's honestly not a bad guy. He certainly isn't the villain that he's made out to be. So, I'm not going to claim that Draco Malfoy isn't selfish, arrogant, or self-obsessed, but he certainly is not a villain. He often means well, he's just quirky. That's a nice way of putting it. In fact, a growing number of fans online are starting to realize Draco's real personality and intentions years after the movies and books came out. Once you take into account all the extenuating circumstances, you may change your view on him as well. For proof of his true colors, look no further than his relationship with Harry Potter's titular character, Harry Potter. If you'll recall, Malfoy originally wanted to be friends with the young Potter. When they originally meet for the first time, before Malfoy knows who this young wizard even is, he treats him like one of his peers. Sure, he's kind of a jerk to Hagrid in the process, but the fact of the matter is he treats Harry like a normal, ordinary kid. After Draco realizes who he's dealing with, he tries convincing Harry to stay away from those, quote, lower than him, and tells him not to befriend the likes of Hermione and Ron because they aren't up to snuff. A bit judgmental? Sure, but overall, it was meant as a complimentary gesture to Harry. Malfoy instead offers his hand in friendship, and we know how that goes. Theoretically, since their families are equally respected and powerful, it would make sense for the two young boys to be peers, and there's no reason why they wouldn't get along.
We're not really enemies, we love each other really. Yeah.
Eventually, the resentment grows and Malfoy becomes a constant thorn in Potter's side. After his friendship proposal was rudely declined, okay, it wasn't that rude, and his feelings got hurt, he made it his mission to make Harry's time at Hogwarts as miserable as possible. He's just acting out because of the initial rejection, though. It's definitely not the healthiest of behavior, but it comes from a place of insecurity, not pure hatred or evil. Furthermore, in The Half-Blood Prince, the two have an aggressive confrontation. Malfoy finds Potter hiding in his train car and proceeds to use a magic spell to stop him and socks him square in the nose. Malfoy then leaves Potter laying on the ground as he walks off to Hogwarts. As a result, Harry becomes obsessed with getting revenge, and even conjures up a theoretical connection between Malfoy and Voldemort based on no actual facts or proof. Harry goes and tells his buddies, and even they tell him that he's jumping to conclusions. Still, despite his friends urging against it and there being no evidence, Harry throws on his invisibility cloak and goes and spies on his classmate. Malfoy finds out that Harry's been spying on him and lashes out at him. Frankly, I don't blame the guy. I'd be pretty cheesed if someone was spying on me for no good reason also. Also, can I be Frank for a second? Hey, I'm Frank. Okay, thanks. Another example of Harry blaming Malfoy for something awful based on absolutely no backup is during the Chamber of Secrets when Harry, Hermione, and Ron believe he's behind all the strange events happening at Hogwarts. They set out to prove his guilt by dressing up as his friends using a magic potion and following him into the Slytherin common room, only to learn that he's not even involved at all. Also worth mentioning that going into another house's room, totally against the rules. The Potter gang may have been the good guys in this situation, but they definitely invade his privacy on several occasions and commit several horrible acts in the name of proving him guilty. All to no avail, may I add. Let's shift away from his rapport with Potter, and now let's take a look at how his family shaped him as a person. There's no denying that his upbringing was filled with bigotry and prejudice. It doesn't exactly excuse his behavior, but it certainly explains it a bit better. In the books, as well as in the movies, he's extremely classist and doesn't care for anyone who isn't a pureblood. He hates muggles, half-breeds, muggle-borns, and blood traders. This behavior and mentality is directly linked to the Malfoy family, who's been one of the wealthiest and most prestigious names for centuries. They're the ones that instilled this pride in a young Draco and taught him the importance of being a pureblood. Growing up, he had very limited contact with any non-pureblood families and only interacted with people of the highest status. He even has ambitions of one day leading the world of wizards. He has no idea that his views are rooted in immoral and bigoted beliefs. He just knows what he's been told to believe and what's been ingrained into him. If anything, Draco is proud of who he is and where he comes from. Sure, there's a hint of being the "do you know who my father is" kind of guy, but ultimately he's just proud of his family's well-respected reputation. The kid is just proud of his papa, and when his dad ultimately fails, Draco is quick to step up and take his place. After all, seeing as how he's an only child, he didn't really have a choice. His mother seems completely and utterly lost without her husband by her side, and young Draco knows that he has to step up in the name of his family. He not only takes over as the head of the family, but makes it his mission to restore the family's sullied reputation. That's a lot of pressure on a kid. It's admirable to see that sort of responsibility and maturity, especially when faced with such a heavy burden. Sure, Draco can be a selfish bully sometimes, but he cares about his family and takes care of his own. Many fans of the series might blame Draco for betraying Dumbledore, who was like pretty much the best guy ever. He shows little hesitation in joining the plan to eliminate the headmaster, but his reasons make sense when you think about it. He was simply trying to restore his family's reputation. He saw the pressure being put on his mother following his father's botched plan, and he could tell that Voldemort was beginning to treat them with less respect. He agrees to end Dumbledore simply to protect his family and keep them from any further harm or disgrace. He knew what needed to be done, and he stepped up to the plate without hesitation. The actions may not be the most kosher, but his motivations make a lot of sense. In fact, Draco couldn't even do that job. He corners Dumbledore and does the classic bad guy move of, explaining all the details of his evil plan, but he can't follow through. It's Snape who has to step in and end the Hogwarts headmaster instead. This shows that he wants to be a bad guy, and kind of wishes he was a bad guy, but deep down, Draco isn't such a bad guy. Even in the fight for Hogwarts, it might seem like Draco sided with the bad guys. It was a classic moment of good versus bad, and he was certainly matched up against the heroes as opposed to alongside them. But then again, this is understandable, because he stands alongside his family. Do you have any idea how difficult it probably was to face off against classmates, teachers, and allies in the British Ministry of Magic? That takes some serious courage and willpower to put family ahead of all of those things. In fact, the prospect of his father potentially regaining his status as the second in command to Voldemort is the #1 motivator for Draco to join the fight. That's some serious loyalty, no matter how you paint it. Draco's relationship with his parents is the motivating factor behind a lot of his questionable actions, including his willingness to help Voldemort. Even his involvement in the plan to eliminate Dumbledore was simply to redeem himself in the eyes of his parents. Do you have any idea how much pressure a person needs to be under in order to willingly agree to eliminate your headmaster so that your parents will like you? Between his father's failure and his family's deteriorating reputation, Draco was willing to do quite literally anything to help. That's some deep psychological issues right there. Like, is there such a thing as a therapist for wizards? All of this to say one simple fact. Draco Malfoy isn't a villain. He's actually a victim of his environment. He's a product of negativity and toxic behavior, but he himself isn't necessarily bad. For example, he totally hesitates when asked to identify Harry, Hermione, and Ron when they're captured by Snatchers. He clearly isn't happy with his position in such a despicable group, and his regret appears to be mounting. All Draco Malfoy really wants is respect. He wants respect from his family, and he wants respect from his peers. He just wants to be recognized as a great wizard. That's the basis of his jealous grudge against Harry Potter. Harry's consistently showered in praise and adoration by faculty and students alike, which only causes Draco's envy to grow. However, it's rarely mentioned how Draco is an excellent student, a skilled broom rider, proficient in spellcasting, and in his 5th year at Hogwarts is even chosen as prefect for Slytherin, a title reserved for people who display extreme talent and excellent grades. So how do you feel about Draco Malfoy? Is he a piece of crap like they want you to think? Or can you see a hint of humanity deep in that soul of his? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And before you go, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to Screen Rant to stay up to date on all of our latest and greatest releases. Until next time, bye!